What is up, New York Giants fans? Thank you for joining another episode of Tommy's Takes. I'm your host, Tommy G. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. And as always, for that, thank you. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Always, the support is much appreciated by me. Definitely helps keep pushing the wagon forward. I appreciate all the support out there. I'm live from MetLife. You can see the sunburn. Epic day today at the stadium. It was absolutely rocking. The New York Giants are 2-0 for the first time since 2016. There was good, there was some bad, there was some ugly, but listen, at the end of the day, this team pulled out a victory again in the fourth quarter, just like last week, right? Team's 2-0, looking like they're going to be number one in the NFC East, first place once this is done. Truly amazing day. We're going to break down what happened. We're going to break down some of the issues that we've seen that reared their ugly head again. Same issues as last week. Overall, though, great performance. Started slow, picked it up in the second half, brought a victory home for the home crowd. And again, amazing energy, being there live. The crowd was pumped, amped. Players were into it, pumping up the crowd. Really phenomenal day to be there. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, first thing, offense gets off to a slow start yet again, just like last week. It's tough when you get off to a slow start because when you start playing some of these better teams, it's going to be really tough, to come back like that. But I will say, once the second half is rolled around in both games, you could see adjustments being made out there. You could see how this team has moved the ball better in the second half. You could see the defense, especially once Leo went down, really stepping their game up. So that was awesome to see from the Giants. But listen, right off the bat, opening kickoff, Carter Coughlin forces a forced fumble. The crowd was absolutely unhinged at that point, literally to open the game, forced fumble. Giants get the ball. Unfortunately, couldn't capitalize. Take the field goal, they're up 3-0. Darnay Holmes forced fumble on the next possession for the Panthers. Made an amazing play ripping the ball out. Unfortunately, yet again, settled for a field goal. It was 6-0 at that point. That's when Baker started to get into a rhythm with the Panthers. Didn't last very long, but he did have a nice drive to make it 6-3. Following that, they had another nice drive to tie it up with a field goal right before the half. That made it 6-6. And then the second half came. DJ Moore, touchdown. It was a tough drive, especially for rookie Cordell Flott. Didn't play well, gave up a reception on that drive, slipped in the back of the end zone to give up the touchdown. That was a tough drive for the Giants. Not a lot of pressure, again, up front on that drive. Not a lot of pressure in the first half. Baker seemed to be breaking contain at will. Had a couple of big runs there, which was, you don't want to see that as a Giants fan. But when you really look at it in retrospect, you're missing both your defensive ends, which is tough. You're missing your second-string cornerback in Robinson. Again, always tough. Had to move some pieces around. Flott was in there. We've seen rookie Dane Belton getting some significant snaps. He played well. He was getting after the ball. You could see some of his talent right away out there, especially live in person. Kid's like a rocket when it comes time to hit. So that was a very positive, turn for the Giants, considering with injuries. A lot of times when you have injuries like that, you don't know if the next man up is going to be able to perform. So that was nice to see. DJ played very well. He comes back with the touchdown to Daniel Bellinger. Bellinger makes a phenomenal athletic play, dives in the end zone. Ball just breaks the plane. So that was an awesome play. DJ looked really, really good on that drive. So the Giants then field goal, right? So field goal with 2 minutes left, 16-13. The Giants are up. Panthers come right down the field. They tie it up 16-16. And then, boom, again, Daniel Jones. I thought Daniel Jones did an absolutely phenomenal job in that second half, controlling the tempo, playing well, taking what was there, as opposed to the first half where I thought Jones looked a little bit skittish. The pass blocking was brutal again, especially in the interior offensive line. Rookie Joshua Zudu struggled immensely again. Mark Lewinsky struggled, unfortunately, and when you have 2/3 of your interior offensive line struggling, the quarterback's going to take some heat. And you're starting to get to this point here, and, those that are not fans of Daniel Jones will call it excuses, and I totally understand that because for 3 years there have been a lot of reasons or excuses, whatever you might want to call it, but watching this game live in person, and you could see literally as soon as the ball is snapped, that interior offensive line is having hell protecting. And Jones, reasonably so, is keeping his eyes on the pass rush. And when you keep your eyes on the pass rush, that's when you miss open throws downfield and you miss receivers. I did notice a couple receivers that were missed on a couple plays. Had Sills missed on one. Shepard was open on one deep that DJ didn't throw him the ball. Regardless, this pass blocking has to get better if this team wants to continue to improve on offense. There's only so much you could ask of a quarterback. Quarterbacks hate pressure in their face. They'd much rather get pressure from the outside so they could step up into the pass protection. So seeing that is not good. That's not a positive sign for the Giants. Something has to be done there. Really, you hope Joshua Ezeudu starts to grow and develop here. He has shown some great stuff in the running game, which is nice. But pass blocking, he has really struggled immensely. So, 3 minutes left. Giants are now up 19-16. They get a field goal. Huge sack by Julian Love. Really huge sack that forced the punt. That was one of those momentum swinging type of plays. Love gets right in there, brings Baker down. Giants get the ball back. Now, as Giants fans, you guys have seen this movie before, right? Where too much time on the clock. Great game. You've scored. You've taken the lead, but the opponent has 2-3 minutes left on the clock. Well, just like last week versus the Titans, this movie ended a little bit differently, and the Giants did an amazing job shutting Baker down and the Panthers on that drive. They get the ball back, and listen, there were a lot of plays in this game that weren't pretty on offense, a lot of plays in this game that weren't pretty for Daniel Jones, but on 3rd and 6, with the game on the line, you don't want to give the Panthers another shot, give them the ball back. Jones makes an amazingly clutch, strong, tough play, scrambles, breaks out towards the right, gets right up in there, picks up close to 10 yards on 3rd and 6 to ice the game, and he slid. Noticed him a couple times today executing that slide perfectly. Great to see. Also didn't take a lot of big hits today, Jones, as opposed to the Titans game where I thought he kind of put himself out there a little bit. And that was it. That 3rd and 6 scramble by Jones iced it. The game was over. The Giants go to 2-0. Really, really phenomenal when you think about it. Like I said, first time since 2016 the Giants have been 2-0. And this is amazing. This is a rebuilding team. This is a team a lot of people thought would have 4 or 5 wins. I believe Vegas had them right around 6.5. And they're already 2-0, and they have the Cowboys on deck next week on prime time. They did win today, Dallas, so shout out to them. That was a good win for them. But then they don't have their quarterback in Dak Prescott. If the Giants can get their edge rushers back, even if they can get one back, whether it's Azeez or Thibodeau, looks like right now that Thibodeau is going to come back before Azeez. If they can get one of these pass rushers back, that's going to solve a big problem because Wink has done a phenomenal job at trying to get pressure, trying to manufacture pressure, send free rushers. Panthers, struggled on some of the blitzes. Baker did break contain, but you're missing your starting edge rushers. I did want to give a major shout out to O'Shane Ximines. I was hard on him during the summer. A lot of fans, content creators were hard on him. Rightfully so. Hasn't done much in his career up to this point. He was active today. I remember telling someone at the game, the 2 X's are active. Xavier McKinney and O'Shane Ximines. They were active. And you could see them both all over the field on almost every snap. So big shout out to O'Shane stepping up. Whatever happens when Azeez and Thibodeau gets back, it's nice to have some depth there at the position. Can never have enough edge rushers, and I thought Ximines did a phenomenal job. Was super active, especially when Leo went down with the apparent knee injury. No real news on the Leo injury yet. He did say after the game he thinks he avoided a serious injury, which was nice to see. But the Giants are going to have to work around that. You're going to have to get one of these guys back when they are both back. When you have Azeez, and obviously you can't predict new injuries occurring, but when you have Azeez back and you have Thibodeau back, Wink Martindale's really going to be able to do some different things he's not able to do now. I thought the secondary for the most part played well. Obviously, Flott had some issues, especially on the touchdown drive. Holmes had a couple of passes he gave up, but again, he had the forced fumble. So this defense, which has shown these first 2 games, they could play. They're here to play. They more or less shut down a really good Titans offense last week. The Panthers started to get some momentum this week, and the defense stepped right up. They had the 2 fumbles to start the game, forced fumbles, which really set the tone for the afternoon. And I think once you get some of these guys back, you see Belton back today. Once you get a couple of these guys back, that's going to be huge for the Giants. Obviously, we're still waiting on news for the Leo injury, but that was it. 2-0 for the first time since 2016. They also end the day in first place in the NFC East. That is amazing. As a Giants fan, you got to be super pumped right now. Gonna hold off on the drafting the new quarterback talk right now because this team's 2-0. They're playing a wounded Dallas team next week, and then they play the Bears the following week. So you could legitimately see this team going 4-0. And if they do, this is a whole different season. You got to give a huge shout out to Coach Dable, huge shout out to Wink Martindale, Kafka. They really did an awesome job. They have struggled in the first halves of these games so far, which, like I said, when you start playing some of these better opponents, some of these more well-prepared teams, you don't want to start out slow like that. Not good, because you might not have the chance to come back. But other than that, did have some house cleaning stuff here to get to. I know there was some talk about Kenny Golladay during the game. He only had a couple of snaps. When you watch the game on TV, you do see a certain perspective. There are certain things you see, but it's essentially what the broadcast wants to show you. I seen something that was very interesting today to me, and I wanted to touch on it. So, several times during the game, I seen Daniel Jones and Kadarius Toney talking on the sidelines, linking up on the field right before they run onto the field, kind of reassuring each other, which is nice to see. Obviously, Toney played a lot more today. Didn't really do a lot with it. Had the bad drop. Got his eyes downfield before he caught it. But with Kadarius Toney, not worried. Once he starts getting some more reps and he's feeling healthy and ready to go, he's going to be a dynamic pass catcher for this team. But you see that. You see the quarterback and the receiver talking on the sidelines, and you see them reassuring each other. And where was Kenny Golladay every time I looked? Sulking on the sidelines, disinterested, which has essentially been the case since he's gotten here. And for the Kenny Golladay defenders, he's not giving you a lot out there to defend. And I know there was some talk after the game, during the game, about his locker being empty, and there was some buzz that he left post-game. If you're among the people that read into that and him packing up his stuff and leaving, that's not the case. Players use certain things for game day. They take it with them after they leave. Just as his locker was empty, that just means he showered and he was out of there. And, I wouldn't read too far into it. Was he upset with his lack of playing time? Only he and probably the coaching staff knows. I'm sure he's not happy. So the $72 million receiver who played less than a handful of snaps, hasn't produced for this team. Tremendous amount of heat on him, especially for a team that has struggled offensively the last couple of seasons. Looked good last week. The offense struggled in the first half today. There's a lot of pressure on him, and he's just simply not performing. When you really dig into it, listen, Coach Dable's going to play the guys that are ready to play. He showed that with Toney last week. Showed that with Golladay. He was quoted after the game as saying, hey, it's a continual competition at receiver. He said it since the middle of camp, and he's kept to his word. And it's going to be continual. And, Kadarius Toney had opportunities today, and we'll see what happens next week. He also said, I think that position, we're going to keep rolling guys out and see who sticks. Sills had a lot of reps today. He was out there pretty much the entire game. As far as how Golladay handled that, the ball said, hey, I told him during the week that we were going to go with Stills, and he acted like a pro. I said, be ready. Now, does that mean he's going to be that next week? Dable said no. Could be different next week. And that's a sign of a good coaching staff, because while you do want to have your most dynamic players out there all game, every game, that may not be the best for the game plan, right? And we have to take that at face value for Coach Dable. We have to say, hey, you know what? This guy, hasn't done anything to burn trust with the fan base. So if that's what he's saying, then the fan base has to go with it. But it does make you open your eyes, because coming into the season, Golladay and Toney were essentially receiver 1 and 2. Toney barely played last week. Golladay barely played today. But you know what? The Giants are 2-0, and that's all that matters. And for a coach, a brand new head coach in Dable, you have to earn trust with the fan base. You have to earn trust with the team. What is the best way to earn trust with the team and the fan base? Putting up victories, going 2-0. Because when you win games, and we've seen this with Brian Belichick in his career, he's done some kooky stuff. He's cut, loved veterans. He's cut veterans that still had a lot of talent left, that have played with the team their whole career. And he's essentially said, I'm going to do what's best for the team. I'm going to do what's best for what the team needs. I'm not worried about somebody's contract, somebody's feelings, emotions. What does the team need to do to win today, on Sunday or Monday? What could I do as a coach to prepare this team to lead them to victory? And that's what he's done. And until he shows otherwise, I think that's a great job by the coach. I don't think that, when you really break it down, I don't think there's anything else to it. Tony had the issues last season, so his not playing last week was a little bit more concerning. But with Kenny Golladay, I don't see this thing ending well. I really don't. It's a year and 2 games now, the entire last season and now the first 2 games where he's done nothing, did nothing in the preseason, was shown on the sideline sulking multiple times, always seems disinterested just from a visual perspective, nothing that I know personally or anybody else, but never really seems pumped, into it, energized, ready to go. And if you're seeing that as fans, content creators, whatever, the coaching staff is darn well seeing that. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens with Golladay. Obviously, when some of those rumors broke that he just ran out of there, which wasn't true, a lot of people were saying, cut Golladay, cut Golladay. If that's what's best for the team, that's what's going to be done. And you got to have faith in Coach Dable. You got to have faith in Wink and Kafka because they're putting up the wins that no other coach has done in the last 6 years here. So that's a remarkable thing by this coaching staff. Big shout out to them. Okay, let's get into some other stuff here. Offense, we talked about it several times already. Got to get off to faster starts. A win is a win, but when the better teams come, it's going to be tough. Giants offense came out the gate slowly. Despite 2 Panthers turnovers that put them in the plus territory, they only netted 60 yards of offense on 26 first half plays. Net 0 rushing yards with only 6 points to show for that effort. You can't, let me rephrase it. You can have bad halves and win in the National Football League when you're playing a team like the Panthers. When you're playing a team like Dallas or you're playing a team like Green Bay, who the Giants have coming up on the schedule, you can't give away a whole first half of football or a second half of football. That's going to be a loss because the good teams string it together. But I'm confident that this is all a part of the process here. And this is, like I said, a rebuilding team, a team that has struggled to get any victories the last, you could say a decade if you minus out 2016. So you kind of take what they're giving you. And we could sit here and critique, start fast, and they do need to start fast. But, hey, at least they finish strong. And I'd rather a team finish strong than start fast, to be honest with you. But once this team puts it all together, once Jones settles into this new offense more, once Tony's healthy, locked in, whatever it is, this team is going to put up some points. And they showed you just by playing one half of football in both weeks, they can still put up some points. Now, a detriment to that is going to be the pass blocking. Jones was hit 9 times today, sacked 3 times, and those numbers into last week's totals, Jones has now been sacked 8 times and hit 17 times. Some say that Jones kind of runs himself into sacks, kind of watches the rush, doesn't keep his eyes downfield, bails out on it. That's partially true. I think that's true. I think when it comes to Daniel Jones, you do see some of the David Carr issues from way back in the day. David Carr was the number 1 overall pick with the Texans, was sacked a ridiculous record-breaking amount of times his rookie year, and just always seemed skittish after that. Never really seemed comfortable in the pocket, and it basically made him shell-shocked. And I do see some of that with Daniel Jones. Seen some of it live in person today, where he's not going to sit there and wait and see if that left guard and right guard are going to seal that block or finish that block or even rebound in that block. As soon as he sees them getting beat, he's out of there. And it's unfortunate because there were a couple of open receivers out there today deep. So pass blocking has to get better for this team, especially on the interior. I thought Evan Neal did a solid job. Andrew Thomas was phenomenal. I believe he had an almost 80 rating once again. He is really becoming a poster boy for consistency, so that's awesome. Giants have their franchise left tackle. Neal still has some growing to do, but I thought he looked good today. All the pressure was in the middle, and it's so tough for quarterbacks when you get that pressure up the middle. It really is. So that's something that needs to improve with this Giants offense. Next up, defense on third down. How clutch is this defense on third down? I mean, it's getting to the point where when the opposing team gets in a third down on offense, you're assuming a stop where it was never the case the last few seasons. I thought Patrick Graham actually did a good job with that when he was defensive coordinator here, but even he still was mediocre and ranked in the middle of the league. So for the second week in a row, Giants held the opponent to 20 points or less in a winning effort. Remarkable. Got to hang your hat on that. But don't overlook what the defense has done on third downs. The Titans were 3 for 11 on third down last week. Giants won up that today. Panthers were 2 for 12 on third down attempts, and that lost them this ball game. They had a couple of decent drives going, and it stalled because of third down. And that's when you really see what a defense has. That's when you really see what a defense coordinator could do. When it's third down, the other team needs to make a play. This is the play, and you stop them. So that's remarkable when you look at this defense. Dable was quoted as saying after the game, I thought the defense throughout the game played well. Again, we gave up the one big one and squirted out there later, but they tightened back up in the red zone. So red zone defense is critical, just as third down is critical. So you like what you see out of the third down defense from this team. Really great to see that. And again, O'Shane Ximines, I would say I owe him apology. A lot of Giants fans owe him apology. Really balled out today. Did a great job. 2 tackles, tackle for a loss. He had one of the Giants 2 sacks. The sacks came when Leonard Williams persuaded Baker Mayfield to kind of roll right and went right into Ximines, and Ximines took him down. So big shout out again to Ximines. Awesome job by him. Listen, as a content creator, when you're down on a player, you're never down on that player and want him to continue to fail. You never want to see that end like that. You're down on the player because you analyze based off of his performance and his past performance, his current performance. So you shout out to him, and he really did his thing today. I know I said it multiple times, but I'm super happy for Ximines. He really deserves it. And now I guess we're seeing what the coaches thought when they got down to the 53-man and Roche was cut and Ximines was kept, and we were all like, what the heck is going on? You've seen that today. He's athletic, super physical, can get to the quarterback, can play the run. When Leo went down, I thought that said a lot about this defense. I thought it said a lot about Wink Martindale. When Leonard Williams went down, and obviously Leonard Williams is key player on his defense, one of the best, if not the best player on his defense, this team rallied. The defense rallied, and they said, you know what? Our guy went down, and we're going to step up. And that speaks a lot to coaching. That speaks a lot to heart. And that's something that you're going to see more of later on in this season. And that's a big, big plus for this Giants defense. Next man up. Giants team has been one of the worst teams with injuries. If this team can execute properly the next man up, you're going to get some victories, and you're going to get a defense that could play. And it's going to be very important when you have quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson coming up, Aaron Rodgers coming up, where it's going to be hard to stop them, and you might not hold them under 20. But can you get that clutch stop on third down? Can you get that clutch stop in the red zone and, instead of giving up 6, you give up 3? So that's something to be super excited about. Something else I was really excited about, and it really showed in person today, were the tight ends. All season long, all off season long, tight ends are our weakness. Tight ends are our weakness. How are we going to go into the season starting a rookie, Daniel Bellinger? And look what happened today. Bellinger has the awesome touchdown, shows super athleticism, diving into the end zone with the ball barely breaking the plane. And so far, they've been playing a big role. Their blocking has been good. Tua Jones' 3 touchdown passes this season have gone to tight ends. And Myrick and Bellinger, on the touchdown to Bellinger, was kind of, it looked like a split zone type of deal that the Panthers were given, and Bellinger said, "Hey, it was a good play call on the offense where I just flashed the defensive end, got open in the flat, and made a play." And he made a play, and that's awesome to see. And that being one of the Giants' weaknesses coming into the season at tight end, and you got rookies playing well. Chris Myrick is playing well. That's great to see. So you're seeing a lot of positives for this Giants team. Obviously, the biggest positive is 2-0. That's something that you got to look at and say, hey, you almost can't believe it. It's almost like, holy cow, that this Giants team could be 2-0. And they're doing it the right way. Hasn't been a lot of penalties. You've had some defensive holdings, but for the most part, hasn't been a lot of penalties. Hasn't been boneheaded plays. You're not seeing, late hits on the quarterback. You're not seeing egregious mistakes. And you're starting young players on defense. You got Flott out there starting. He's a rookie. You got Belton out there starting today, and he's a rookie. So you got rookies, out there starting and making plays. So that's awesome. Can the Giants go 3-0? Can they go 4-0, 5-0? Who knows? But the fact that this conversation is even happening and Giants fans can have that conversation, really phenomenal job by this coaching staff. Working with a roster that's very bare, very little depth. A lot of people say very little talent out there. Also, something I liked was, Xavier McKinney did an amazing job, especially in the first half of shutting down McCaffrey. Obviously McCaffrey had the big run late in the second half, but you seen McKinney in the box, super active, all over the field. He shadowed McCaffrey on a bunch of plays, and McCaffrey couldn't break much with Zimenez on him. Zimenez is really a phenomenal player on this Giants defense. I know he gets talked about a lot. I still don't feel like he gets talked about enough. Seeing him in person today was phenomenal. He's everywhere. He's making tackles. He's in the backfield, almost getting a sack, getting his hands on some deflections. Baker had several balls deflected today at the line of scrimmage, which was a big help. And Julian Love, last but not least, played well today, played a couple different roles, 8 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss, and a quarterback hit. So he was absolutely instrumental in this Giants defense, doing a great job limiting some of the plays. You've seen Baker start to get into a rhythm in the first half, late in the first half, breaking the contain, breaking the pocket, scrambling, picking up some yards. But at the end of the day, it's bend but don't break. And we've heard that in the past, but the first 2 weeks, this defense has done it. So big shout out to Wink Martindale again. Credit to Saquon. It was a tough day for him. Panthers stacked the box all day long. I believe he had over 60 yards rushing in the second half. So he bounced back strong in the second half, had a couple of clutch runs, which was nice to see. So I think when it comes to Saquon Barkley, you're going to see some big plays out of him this season. Because even in the game today, like today, where he was limited and the opposing defense went out of their way to stack the box and put a hat on him, he still made the most of it. You also seen that last week versus the Titans in the first half, when this offense was brutal in the first half, this Giants offense, but Barkley would still get 4 or 5 yards here, 6 yards here, 7 yards here. I remember at one point last week saying, shout out to Barkley in the first half. He's the only one really playing on offense. So that's different. In the last couple years when he was injured, when the offense was down, he was down. And he was getting 1 yard, losing 1 yard, always getting hit in the backfield. So I think, and especially watching Barkley in person, really phenomenal athlete. Just the way he's built, the way he carries himself, just watching in warm-ups, he's something special. To see him back healthy is probably the number 1 plus for this Giants football team. So that's just remarkable. You're going to see some big games out of him this season. I know the Panthers had, coming into the game, we thought Barkley was going to gash him for 200 yards, but they did a good job. You got to give credit to the opponent, too. They did a great job on defense. They spied on Barkley. They stacked the box. Wasn't a lot there. They dared Daniel Jones to beat them. But some teams won't. And I think as soon as Barkley gets a crack and gets a crevice, he's going to be gone. And, knock on wood, if he stays healthy, he's got a tremendous season ahead of him. And so does this Giants team, right? Let's look ahead. You have Dallas next week in prime time, missing their quarterback in Dak. They did have a win today over the Bengals, which, good for them. But I think this Giants team could take that Dallas team next week. And if you could look and see this Giants team at 3-0, that's remarkable. I mean, there's not really much else you could say, because then you go to the Bears after that, right? And the Bears, they have played decently. That's another winnable game, right? And then you go into and you play the Packers. So you could potentially have a scenario where this Giants football team goes to England at 4-0 to play the Packers, which is essentially prime time in the London game. That could be one of the biggest games this Giants team has had in the last 6-7 years. That could be a statement game. I know what you're all saying out there. Don't look ahead, Tommy. One game at a time. Don't look ahead. Don't look ahead. But when you've had a team that has went 0-2 the last 5 years straight to start the season, and you go 2-0 to start this season, you could look ahead a little bit, right? You could have some fun with it, because nobody's been able to have that fun. Covering this team, being a fan of this team, you haven't been able to do that. It's been like, okay, 0-1, okay, 0-2. All right, now let's look up that statistical stat that says that, whatever it is, less than 15% of teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs. So as opposed to that, this is awesome. This is amazing. And don't worry about looking ahead. Wink, Dable, Kafka, they're going to make sure this team doesn't look ahead. 2 games now where the Giants coaching staff has outcoached the other team's coaches. That's phenomenal to see. That's what you wanted to see. And that's why in the offseason, Giants fans were super pumped when they got Dable, super pumped when they got Wink, super pumped when they got Kafka. And it's coming to fruition now. And it's an amazing feeling for Giants fans. It's an amazing feeling to cover the team. Being in that stadium today, as soon as that clock hit zeros in the fourth quarter, it was just massive elation. Leaving the stadium, the fans were pumped, high fives, screaming, yelling. Really good to see that energy back in MetLife Stadium. Let's see what happens. Look ahead, have some fun, but it is one game at a time. I think this Giants team is going to start hitting a stride, especially if they can get Thibodeau and Aziz back. Hopefully Leo's injury is not too bad. Hopefully you get Wan'Dale Robinson back sometime soon. You'll keep your eyes on situations like Kenny Golladay and Tony with their reps. But all in all, the defense made the stops when they had to. The offense did what they had to. Daniel Jones did not have a clean first half. There were some receivers missed, but the pressure's really getting to him up the middle. Second half, he comes out, dink, dunk, and a couple of nice runs. And, Barkley didn't have a great second half. He picked it up, obviously, way better than the first half. But Daniel Jones really put the team on his back, especially on that touchdown drive. And then the 3rd and 6 to ice the game. So Daniel Jones has showed a little bit of progression in this offense. And you could only look to him showing more progression, getting more comfortable in this offense. This is a brand new offense. And why people don't want to, people view it as excuses for him, regardless of the fact, it's a quarterback in a brand new offense. As he goes along, he's going to get better in this offense. Hopefully the pass blocking gets better, especially in the interior, because that could be a disaster. If it does and he gets more comfortable, going to be some great feelings, going to be some great vibes around here. Stay tuned to Tommy's Takes. We got some great stuff coming up. Thank you for tuning in. Fresh from MetLife, sunburn, but I had to get on and chat with you guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Go Giants.